To keep seeing more stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you like this video, share your feedback in the comments section. The Storm's Gift. An unexpected shelter. Sophia Bennett pressed her body against the brick building as rain poured down in sheets, soaking through her cotton dress within seconds. The weather forecast had promised clear skies, but New York City had other plans. Thunder rumbled overhead as she clutched her portfolio case to her chest, desperately searching for somewhere to wait out the storm. The street was nearly empty, most sensible people having already found shelter. Sophia's heels clicked against the wet pavement as she hurried down the block, her eyes scanning for an open cafe or store. That was when she noticed the warm golden glow spilling onto the sidewalk from an elegant storefront ahead. The restaurant. Through rain-streaked windows, Sophia could see crisp white tablecloths, flickering candlelight, and the gentle movement of well-dressed diners. A discreet bronze plaque beside the door read "Russo's" in flowing script. The place looked expensive, far beyond what her junior architect's salary could afford, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She pushed open the heavy wooden door, and a wave of warmth enveloped her immediately. The interior was even more beautiful than she had imagined. Rich mahogany panels lined the walls, vintage Italian landscapes hung in ornate frames, and the soft notes of classical music drifted through the air. The scent of garlic, fresh basil, and wood-fired pizza made her stomach growl, reminding her that she had skipped lunch. The first glance. A young hostess in a crisp black dress approached with a polite but questioning smile. Sophia opened her mouth to explain, but before she could speak, a deep voice cut through the quiet ambience. "Maria, please bring the lady a towel." Sophia turned to see a man rising from a corner table near the windows. He was tall, probably just over 6 feet, with dark hair that held the slightest wave. His suit was perfectly tailored, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, and his white shirt was open at the collar. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, a striking shade of green that seemed to assess everything in a single glance. He approached with confident strides, his shoes making no sound on the polished floor. Up close, Sophia could see the sharp line of his jaw, the hint of stubble that suggested the end of a long day, and the smallest scar above his left eyebrow. An invitation. "You look like you could use somewhere warm to sit," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent that Sophia could not quite place. Italian, perhaps, but softened by years in America. "I do not want to impose," Sophia replied, suddenly very aware of how she must look, dripping water onto the expensive flooring. "I just needed to get out of the storm." The man smiled, and the expression transformed his serious features into something surprisingly warm. "No imposition at all. I am Leonardo Russo. I own this restaurant, and any friend seeking shelter from the rain is welcome here." Maria returned with a plush towel, and Sophia gratefully wrapped it around her shoulders. Leonardo gestured toward his table by the window. "Please, join me. The storm shows no signs of stopping, and I was dining alone anyway." Sophia hesitated. Every instinct told her this was unusual, that restaurant owners did not typically invite rain-soaked strangers to their tables. Yet something in Leonardo's eyes seemed genuine, and the alternative was standing awkwardly in the doorway or braving the storm again. Breaking the ice. "Thank you," Sophia said finally, allowing him to guide her to the table. "I am Sophia Bennett." "A pleasure, Sophia," Leonardo replied, pulling out her chair before returning to his own seat. "May I offer you something to eat? You look as though you have had a difficult day." Before she could protest, he had already signaled to a waiter, who appeared instantly at his side. Leonardo spoke in rapid Italian, and the waiter nodded before disappearing into the kitchen. "I hope you do not mind," Leonardo said. "I took the liberty of ordering a few things. If you have any allergies or preferences, please tell me." "No allergies," Sophia said, still feeling somewhat overwhelmed by the turn her evening had taken. "But I should mention I cannot afford this place. I was supposed to meet a client for dinner at a cafe down the street, but she cancelled at the last minute." Leonardo waved a dismissive hand. You are my guest tonight. Consider it payment for the pleasure of your company on an otherwise quiet evening. Finding common ground. As the waiter brought fresh bread and olive oil, followed by a crisp white wine, Sophia found herself relaxing. Leonardo was easy to talk to, asking questions that showed genuine interest rather than polite obligation. He wanted to know about her work as an architect, her favorite buildings in the city, her dreams for future projects. I love the old buildings, Sophia explained, warming to her favorite subject. The ones with history and character. There is this brownstone in Brooklyn I walk past sometimes, built in 1892, and every time I see it, I imagine the lives that have passed through those doors. Architecture should not just be about function or making a statement. It should honor the past while embracing the future. Leonardo listened intently, his green eyes never leaving her face. That is a beautiful philosophy. Too many people forget that buildings are more than just structures. They are homes, memories, legacies. Exactly, Sophia said, surprised by his understanding. Do you have an interest in architecture? I appreciate beauty in all its forms, Leonardo replied. And I believe in preserving what matters. This building, for instance, was constructed in 1923. When I purchased it 5 years ago, many people advised me to gut the interior and modernize everything. But I wanted to keep its soul intact. The first course. The food began to arrive, each dish a masterpiece of color and aroma. Roasted peppers drizzled with aged balsamic, fresh mozzarella that melted on the tongue, paper-thin slices of prosciutto that tasted of sun and time. Sophia had not realized how hungry she was until she took the first bite. This is incredible, she said, savoring the flavors. Do you have a chef from Italy? Leonardo smiled. My grandmother taught me most of these recipes. She believed that food should be made with love, not just skill. Our chef, Antonio, trained in Rome, but he understands that principle. As they ate, the conversation flowed naturally from topic to topic. Sophia learned that Leonardo had grown up in Naples but moved to New York when he was 19. He spoke about his love for the city, its energy, its endless possibilities. He asked about her family, and she told him about her parents in Queens, her father's construction work, her mother's nursing career. A moment of connection. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the city. Lightning flashed, illuminating the rain-soaked streets in brief, brilliant moments. But inside Russo's, time seemed to slow down. The other diners finished their meals and departed one by one until Sophia realized they were nearly alone in the restaurant. I should probably go, she said, though she made no move to leave. You must want to close up. Leonardo checked his watch, a sleek piece that probably cost more than Sophia's rent. We stay open until midnight on Fridays. You have plenty of time. He refilled her wine glass, and Sophia noticed the elegant movement of his hands, strong but refined. There was something about Leonardo that drew her in, a combination of confidence and mystery that made her want to know more. Sharing stories. Tell me about your dreams, Sophia, Leonardo said, leaning back in his chair. If you could design anything, anywhere, without limitations, what would it be? Sophia considered the question, surprised by how much she wanted to answer honestly. A community center in my parents' neighborhood. Something beautiful and functional that brings people together. A place with gardens and meeting rooms, spaces for children to play and elders to gather. Architecture that serves the people who need it most, not just those who can afford luxury. Leonardo's expression grew thoughtful. That is noble. Too often, we forget that true success is not measured by profit alone. What about you? Sophia asked. If you could do anything without limitations, what would it be? For a moment, something flickered across Leonardo's face, a shadow of sadness or regret. I would choose a simpler life. One where my choices affected only myself, where I could wake up each morning without the weight of other people's expectations. The honesty in his words touched something deep in Sophia's heart. She realized that beneath the expensive suit and confident demeanor, Leonardo carried his own burdens. The growing storm. As if echoing the emotional intensity at their table, the storm outside intensified. Thunder crashed so loudly that the windows rattled, and the lights in the restaurant flickered briefly before steadying again. "I should really call for a car," Sophia said, reaching for her phone. But Leonardo gently caught her hand. "Stay a little longer," he said softly. "At least until the worst of the storm passes." His touch sent an unexpected warmth through her, and Sophia found herself nodding. There was something happening between them, something neither of them had anticipated when she first stumbled through that door seeking secrets behind the smile. The revelation. Leonardo released Sophia's hand, but his eyes remained locked on hers. The restaurant staff moved quietly in the background, clearing tables and dimming lights in the now empty dining room. The intimacy of the moment felt both thrilling and dangerous. "You have been very kind to a stranger," Sophia said, trying to steady her racing heart. "But I get the feeling there is more to you than meets the eye." Leonardo's smile turned slightly sad. "We all have our stories, Sophia. Some are just more complicated than others." Before she could respond, the kitchen doors swung open and a tall man in chef's whites emerged. He approached their table with quick, purposeful steps, his weathered face lined with concern. "Leonardo, we need to speak," he said in Italian, though Sophia caught the urgency in his tone. Leonardo stood smoothly, his entire posture shifting into something more alert, more guarded. "Excuse me for just a moment," he said to Sophia, his voice still warm but now carrying an edge of authority she had not heard before. Uncomfortable truths. While Leonardo spoke with the chef in hushed Italian near the kitchen entrance, Sophia found herself studying the restaurant with new eyes. She noticed details she had missed before, the way the remaining staff moved with military precision, the expensive security cameras discreetly placed in corners, the thickness of the windows that seemed designed for more than just keeping out the cold. This was not just an upscale restaurant. This was something else entirely. Leonardo returned to the table, his expression unreadable. "I apologize for the interruption. Sometimes business cannot wait, even for pleasant evenings." "What kind of business are you really in, Leonardo?" Sophia asked, surprising herself with her directness. Perhaps the wine had loosened her tongue, or perhaps she simply needed to know the truth. He sat down slowly, considering his words. "I own several establishments in the city. Restaurants, a few clubs, some import businesses. My family has been in New York for many years, building connections, creating opportunities." "That sounds very diplomatic," Sophia said. "But it does not really answer my question." The truth emerges. Leonardo studied her for a long moment, and Sophia saw him making a decision. "You are perceptive. That is a quality I admire, though it can sometimes lead to uncomfortable truths." He poured himself more wine, his movements deliberate. "My family came from Naples, as I mentioned. But we did not come as tourists or simple immigrants seeking a better life. We came because certain circumstances made it necessary to leave Italy. My grandfather built an empire here, one that exists in the spaces between legal and illegal, between protection and extortion, between loyalty and fear." Sophia's breath caught. She should have been afraid, should have made an excuse and left immediately. But something kept her in that chair, listening. "I do not expect you to understand," Leonardo continued. "Most people see only what they want to see, the successful businessman, the charming restaurant owner. They do not ask about the foundations that empire is built upon. A choice to make." "Are you telling me you are part of organized crime?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am telling you that I inherited responsibilities I did not choose," Leonardo said. "I am telling you that the world I live in is not black and white, but many shades of gray. I am also telling you this because you deserve honesty, especially after you have honored me with your company this evening. Sophia's mind raced. Every logical part of her brain screamed at her to leave, to forget this night ever happened. But her heart, traitorous and foolish, whispered something different. She saw the conflict in Leonardo's eyes, the burden he carried, the loneliness that mirrored her own. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I cannot bear the thought of lying to you," Leonardo said simply. "Because in the few hours we have spent together, you have reminded me what it feels like to be seen as a person, not just as a name or a position. Because I think you deserve to make an informed choice about whether you want to finish your wine or walk out that door." The storm within. Thunder crashed outside, shaking the building. The lights flickered again, and this time they stayed dim, powered by emergency generators. In the semi-darkness, lit only by candles and the faint glow from the kitchen, Leonardo looked younger, more vulnerable. "I should go," Sophia said, but she did not move. "You should," Leonardo agreed. "But I hope you will not." "This is insane," Sophia said, more to herself than to him. "I do not even know you. I certainly should not trust you." "You should not," Leonardo said. "I am not a good man, Sophia. I have done things I am not proud of, made choices that keep me awake at night. But I am trying to be better, to build something legitimate, to leave behind the legacy of violence and fear." An unexpected connection. Sophia looked into his green eyes and saw sincerity there, along with pain and hope. She thought about her own life, how carefully she had constructed it, how safe and predictable every choice had been. She thought about the dreams she had confessed to him, dreams of creating something meaningful, and she realized that Leonardo was trying to do the same thing in his own complicated way. "Tell me about your family," she said finally. "Not the business. Tell me about the people." Relief washed over Leonardo's features. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She was the strongest person I have ever known, survived wars, poverty, immigration, and never lost her kindness. She taught me that power without compassion is meaningless, that respect must be earned, not taken." He spoke of Sunday dinners that lasted for hours, of learning to make pasta by hand, of his grandmother's stories about the old country. He spoke of his younger sister, Maria, who had escaped the family business to become a teacher, and his cousin Antonio, the chef who had warned him earlier. "They are my anchor," Leonardo said. "When I forget who I am beneath all the expectations and obligations, they remind me." Dangerous interruption. As Leonardo spoke, Sophia noticed movement outside the windows. Two dark cars had pulled up to the curb despite the rain, and several men in expensive suits were emerging. They moved with purpose, and even from inside, Sophia could sense the tension. Leonardo saw them at the same moment. His jaw tightened, and he stood abruptly. "Sophia, I need you to do exactly as I say. Do you trust me?" "I do not know," Sophia answered honestly. "Fair enough," Leonardo said. "But I am asking you to trust me anyway, just for the next few minutes." The front door opened, and three men entered without knocking. They were imposing figures, all wearing dark suits that did little to conceal their muscular builds. The one in front, older with silver streaking his temples, locked eyes with Leonardo immediately. The confrontation. "Leonardo Russo," the man said in accented English. "We need to have a conversation." "Marco," Leonardo replied, his voice cold and controlled. "This is not the time or place." "I disagree," Marco said, his eyes sliding to Sophia. "Unless you want your friend here to become involved in family business." Leonardo moved slightly, positioning himself between Sophia and the newcomers. "She has nothing to do with this. She is simply a guest who sought shelter from the storm." "How fortunate for her," Marco said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Then she will not mind waiting elsewhere while we discuss matters that concern you. Actually, I mind very much, Leonardo said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register that made the temperature in the room seem to plummet. You will leave now, Marco, and we will schedule a proper meeting tomorrow. Power and protection. Marco laughed, but there was no humor in it. You forget yourself, Leonardo. You may run things in this neighborhood, but there are bigger powers at play. Powers that are losing patience with your independence. I forget nothing, Leonardo said. Including the agreements made by my grandfather, agreements that give me autonomy in my territory. Unless those agreements have changed? The tension in the room was suffocating. Sophia could see Leonardo's staff emerging from the kitchen, could sense the shift in the atmosphere as everyone prepared for violence. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she remained still, trusting Leonardo's earlier instruction. Marco's eyes narrowed. The old agreements were made in different times. The world is changing, Leonardo. Those who do not change with it find themselves left behind, or worse. Is that a threat? Leonardo asked softly. It is advice, Marco replied. From someone who has seen what happens to those who stand alone. A display of strength. Leonardo reached into his jacket, and Sophia's breath caught. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out his phone. He pressed a single button and held it up. Within seconds, the sound of engines filled the street outside. Sophia glanced toward the windows and saw more cars arriving, easily a dozen, disgorging men who moved to surround Marco's vehicles. They did not draw weapons, did not make threats. They simply stood there, a silent display of force. I am never alone, Marco, Leonardo said quietly. And I would appreciate it if you would remember that before making late-night visits to my establishment. Marco's jaw clenched, but he was clearly outmatched. He gestured to his men, and they began backing toward the door. This is not over, Russo. It never is, Leonardo replied. But it is over for tonight. Aftermath. After Marco and his men departed, Leonardo remained standing for a long moment, his shoulders rigid with tension. Then, slowly, he turned to face Sophia. She saw exhaustion in his eyes, and something else, regret. I am sorry you had to witness that, he said. Sophia found her voice, though it shook slightly. That was about territory? About power? It was about respect, Leonardo corrected. About boundaries and the old ways versus new ambitions. Marco represents a faction that wants to consolidate power, to bring all the independent operators under one umbrella. I represent resistance to that consolidation. Because you value your independence? Sophia asked. Because I have seen what happens when too much power concentrates in too few hands, Leonardo said. My grandfather taught me that true strength comes from community, from loyalty freely given, not forced through fear. The question. He moved closer to Sophia, his expression pained. I would not blame you if you wanted to leave now, if you never wanted to see me again. This is my world, Sophia. Danger, conflict, impossible choices. It is not a world anyone should enter lightly. Sophia stood, her legs steadier than she expected. She looked at this complicated man who had shown her kindness, honesty, and now vulnerability. She thought about walking away, about returning to her safe, predictable life. Then she thought about the connection she felt, the way he had listened to her dreams, the loneliness she recognized in his eyes. I should go, she said finally. But not because I am afraid of you. Then why? Leonardo asked. Because I need time to think, Sophia said honestly. Because this is more than I expected when I walked through that door seeking shelter from the rain. Because if I stay now, it will not be an accident of circumstance. It will be a choice. Leonardo nodded slowly. That is fair. That is wise. He walked her to the door, and the rain had finally slowed to a gentle drizzle. The street was quiet again, Marco's cars long gone, Leonardo's men discreetly withdrawn. Can I call you? Leonardo asked. Or would you prefer I did not? Sophia pulled out a business card from her portfolio case, miraculously still dry. She handed it to him. Call me tomorrow. After I have had time to think clearly. I will, Leonardo promised. As Sophia stepped out into the night, she felt his eyes on her back. She did not look back, afraid that if she did, she would lose her resolve. But she knew, even then, that this was not goodbye. It was only the beginning. When two worlds collide. Morning after. Sophia did not sleep well that night. She lay in her small apartment, listening to the city sounds outside her window, replaying every moment of her encounter with Leonardo. In the harsh light of morning, it seemed almost like a dream, the elegant restaurant, the charming owner, the dangerous confrontation. But Leonardo's business card sat on her nightstand, solid proof that it had all been real. She went through her morning routine mechanically, showering, dressing, making coffee. Saturday morning stretched ahead of her, usually filled with sketching new designs or visiting construction sites. But today, she could not focus on anything except the phone that remained stubbornly silent. He said he would call. But would he? Perhaps in the light of day, he had reconsidered. Perhaps he had decided it was better to let her go, to keep his complicated world separate from her simple one. The call. When her phone finally rang at noon, Sophia jumped so hard she nearly dropped her coffee mug. She stared at the unknown number for 3 rings before answering. Hello? Sophia. It is Leonardo. His voice sounded different over the phone, more uncertain. I hope I am not calling too early. It is noon, Sophia said, unable to keep the smile from her voice. I know. I have been awake since 6, trying to decide what time would be appropriate to call. Too early seems presumptuous. Too late seems disinterested. Noon felt like a compromise. The image of Leonardo Russo, who had faced down armed men without flinching, agonizing over when to call her, made Sophia's heart soften. Noon is perfect, she said. A proposition. I would like to see you again, Leonardo said directly. But I understand if you have decided that is not wise. I spent the night thinking about what I exposed you to, and I would not blame you for choosing to protect yourself. Sophia walked to her window, looking out at the Brooklyn street below. I spent the night thinking too. About choices and consequences, about safety and passion, about the difference between the life I have built and the life I might want. And what did you decide? Leonardo asked quietly. I decided that I want to see you again, Sophia said. But I need you to understand something. I am not naive. I know what your world involves, and I know that getting involved with you means accepting certain risks. But I also know that last night, I felt more alive than I have in years. I felt the same, Leonardo admitted. Which is why I want to be completely honest with you about what seeing me means. The truth about his world. Over the next hour, Leonardo told Sophia things he had never told anyone outside his inner circle. He explained the structure of his organization, the legitimate businesses that provided legal income and the less legitimate activities that existed in the shadows. He talked about the constant balancing act, maintaining relationships with law enforcement who looked the other way as long as he kept violence off the streets and paid his taxes. I am not a saint, Sophia. I have hurt people, made decisions that haunt me. But I have also protected my neighborhood, kept drugs away from schools, made sure elderly residents felt safe walking at night. The world is not black and white. I know, Sophia said. My father works construction. I know about the cash jobs, the under-the-table payments, the way systems work outside official channels. I am not as sheltered as you might think. This is different, Leonardo insisted. This is more dangerous. Then help me understand the real dangers, Sophia said. Not hypothetical ones. What would dating you actually mean for my life? Real consequences. Leonardo was silent for a moment, gathering his thoughts. It would mean that people would know you matter to me, which could make you a target for my enemies. It would mean federal agents might investigate you, looking for leverage against me. It would mean your life would never be completely private again. It would mean accepting that some nights, I cannot tell you where I am or what I am doing. It would mean living with the knowledge that violence could touch our lives at any moment. That sounds terrifying, Sophia said honestly. It is. Which is why I have avoided relationships for years. It seemed cruel to ask someone to accept those terms. But you are asking me? Sophia said. No, Leonardo replied. I am laying out the truth and letting you decide. Because if you choose to walk away right now, I will understand and respect that decision. But if you choose to give this a chance, I promise to protect you with everything I have, to be honest with you always, and to make sure you never regret taking that risk, her decision. Sophia closed her eyes, listening to the sound of Leonardo's breathing on the other end of the line. She thought about her parents, who had risked everything to come to a new country. She thought about her grandmother's stories of wartime love, of choosing passion over safety. She thought about the architecture she loved, buildings that took bold risks to create something beautiful. I want to see you again, she said firmly. Today, if possible. She heard Leonardo's sharp intake of breath. Are you certain? No, Sophia admitted. But I am certain that I will regret it more if I do not try. Then let me take you somewhere, Leonardo said. Somewhere we can talk without interruptions, somewhere I can show you another part of my world. A different side. 2 hours later, a car arrived at Sophia's building. Not a threatening black SUV, but a classic convertible, deep blue with chrome accents. Leonardo sat in the driver's seat, wearing jeans and a simple white shirt, looking younger and more relaxed than he had the night before. You clean up well, Sophia teased as she slid into the passenger seat. I thought we could both use a break from formality, Leonardo said with a smile. He drove them out of the city, heading north along the Hudson River. They talked easily, about music and movies, about childhood memories and favorite foods. The conversation felt natural, unforced, and Sophia found herself laughing more than she had in months. After an hour, they arrived at a small coastal town. Leonardo parked near a modest house overlooking the water, white with blue shutters and a garden bursting with flowers. This was my grandmother's house, he said. She left it to me when she passed. It is the one place where I can just be Leonardo, not Russo, not the boss, not anyone's responsibility. Private sanctuary. Inside, the house was cozy and lived in, filled with photographs and comfortable furniture. Leonardo made them lunch, simple pasta with fresh tomatoes and basil from the garden, and they ate on the porch overlooking the water. Thank you for bringing me here, Sophia said. I can see why this place is special to you. I wanted you to understand that I am more than what you saw last night, Leonardo said. That man who faced down Marco, that is part of me. But so is this, the grandson who learned to cook from his nana, the man who finds peace watching the waves. Sophia reached across the table and took his hand. I am beginning to understand that all of us contain multitudes. You are not just one thing, Leonardo. Neither am I. Building trust. They spent the afternoon walking along the beach, talking about their hopes and fears. Leonardo shared stories about his sister, about the guilt he felt that she had to distance herself from the family to live her own life. Sophia talked about the pressure of being the first in her family to pursue higher education, the fear of disappointing her parents. They are so proud of you, Leonardo said. Anyone can see that. How can you be sure? Sophia asked. Because you carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows they are loved, Leonardo said. That kind of foundation shows. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on the porch steps. Leonardo's arm was around Sophia's shoulders, and she leaned into his warmth. I need to tell you something, Leonardo said. Marco will not let last night go. There will be consequences, challenges to my authority. The next few weeks could be dangerous. Then we will face them together, Sophia said. You do not have to, Leonardo insisted. You can still walk away. I could, Sophia agreed. But I am not going to. The promise. Leonardo turned to face her fully, his green eyes intense. If we do this, truly do this, I need you to promise me something. Promise that you will tell me if it becomes too much, if you need to step back. Promise that you will not sacrifice your safety or your dreams for me. Promise that you will always be honest, even when the truth is hard. I promise, Sophia said. If you promise me the same thing. Promise that you will trust me with the truth, even when you think it might scare me away. Promise that you will let me make my own choices about what risks I am willing to take. Promise that you will not push me away to protect me without giving me a say in the matter. I promise, Leonardo said softly. First kiss. As the last light faded from the sky, Leonardo leaned in and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid of breaking the fragile understanding they had built. But then Sophia's hands moved to his hair, and Leonardo pulled her closer, and the kiss deepened into something more passionate, more certain. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Leonardo rested his forehead against hers. I did not expect you, he whispered. I did not expect any of this. Neither did I, Sophia replied. But here we are. The road ahead. They drove back to the city as stars appeared overhead. Sophia felt both exhilarated and terrified, knowing that she had just committed herself to a path that would change everything. But as she glanced at Leonardo's profile, lit by the dashboard lights, she felt certain she had made the right choice. When they reached her building, Leonardo walked her to the door. I will call you tomorrow, he said. And the day after that, and the day after that, if you will let me. I will let you, Sophia said with a smile. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt as though she was floating. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, knew there would be challenges and dangers she could not yet imagine. But she also knew that